Scale of 1 to 10, let me know. Let's get into it. Coach Colin here. What's going on, guys? You know, like I said, I got to get back into what I really like to talk about, which is the whole UFO thing. But this is kind of UFO, biblical, esoteric a little bit, making some connections here, talking about the Ark of the Covenant. Now, we're going to be jumping all over the place a little bit. We got Graham Hancock up first, talking with Joe Rogan about the Ark of the Covenant. Now, this is very, very interesting because then we jump over to the newest episode that just released with a band called the Red Clay Stray, I believe they're called. Great, great episode. And then I'm going to jump over to Jesse Michaels talking with Graham Hancock because he gives a more clear description of what this thing is. And then I'm going to show you a clip of the actual place and these people, the protectors of this ark, because what's happening to these protectors and how long their lifespan is once they become someone who is protecting this Ark of the Covenant that they claim to have in Ethiopia. I mean, I'm just going to make some connections for you because, and then the last clip is going to be from Redacted because they're talking about like an update on the Ark of the Covenant. Apparently there's some things going on, some maybe in a different location, etc. But you know what? Actually, what it is they have from the agency a released document, declassified document from the agency talking about the Ark of the Covenant, and what they say about it is mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. Let's jump in and start with Graham Hancock, and then we'll get into the rest of the craziness. Tinfoil Speedo on now.
It most certainly has. You know, I first found out about you because of Fingerprints of the Gods, and one of the things that I found most fascinating when I started going into your work was the idea that the Ark of the Covenant exists in Ethiopia.
That's what brought me into this field. Before that, I wrote all about current affairs.
That story is so nuts, and it sounds so ridiculous, and people like go, what? The Ark of the Covenant's real? But then when you go into the history of these people that live there, and they all suffered radiation poisoning, and it's like, wait a minute.
Cataracts over their eyes. Yeah. And let's not forget that there's an indigenous population of Old Testament Jews in Ethiopia, the Falashas, who have their own story about how the Ark of the Covenant got there.
Right.
Different from the Ethiopian national epic, which is called the Kebra Nagast, the glory of kings. That's why I got into this field. I was a current affairs guy, and Ethiopia was on my beat, and I just kept on coming across this story, and I realized it was central to Ethiopian culture, and I decided to investigate it and explore it, and it led to The Sign and the Seal, which was published in 1992, and that's what set me on the path to Fingerprints of the Gods and everything that followed that.
So who is getting the cataracts?
The guardian of the Ark. This is a monk who is appointed. The place is Aksum in the province of Tigray in northern Ethiopia. It's a massively interesting place. Aksum has these huge granite stelae. They're very similar in many ways to ancient Egyptian obelisks. They're a bit different in shape, but same sort of height, some of them going 110 feet high, cut out of solid granite, right up there in the highlands of Ethiopia. And then they have an ancient church, the Church of St. Mary, cathedral actually of St. Mary of Zion, where the Ark apparently was kept for hundreds and hundreds of years. Before that it was kept elsewhere, and then now it's been moved into a chapel that stands next to St. Mary of Zion Cathedral. And that chapel is guarded by armed men. The whole town is an armed camp that is protecting what they believe to be the Ark of the Covenant, but it's guarded particularly by one guy who is the official guardian of the Ark, and he's elected by other monks to be the guardian of the Ark, and several of them have run away when they get that election, because once you're elected as the guardian of the Ark, when the previous one has died, you're going to be kept in that chapel forever. You'll never be allowed to leave it. So they're close to whatever this object is. They're close to it. And I met 3 of them over a succession of years because their mortality is once they're appointed, they die very soon. And they all had these cataracts over their eyes, and they all blamed the object in that chapel, whether or not it's the Ark, for causing their blindness.
Wow.
So it's
and no one is going in there and trying to get to the bottom of it. They won't let you.
They won't let you. They won't let you.
Can I bribe them?
No.
It seems like someone should go look.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Yeah.
What's in there? I mean, if we really find out the Ark of the Covenant was an actual object,
I think it was an actual object.
And you think it was some nuclear something or another? Like,
I don't know what it was. I think it's what is rightly described as an out-of-place artifact. Because if you look at the description in the book of Exodus, the very precise dimensions of it, I think in modern terms we'd say 3 feet 9 inches long by 2 feet 3 inches high and wide. It's got a layer of gold, it's got a layer of wood, it's got another layer of gold. It's very precisely specified, like a blueprint in the book of Exodus. And then it does all this stuff. It shoots out jets of fire and kills completely innocent people. It kills 50,000 Philistines in the city of Ashdod when they briefly capture it from the Israelites and make the mistake of treating it like a tourist object. And they open the Ark of the Covenant and look inside, and suddenly everybody in that city is dying. And what they're dying of is cancerous tumors. This is described in the Old Testament. So it's intriguing that this object is so precisely specified and is reported to have done these terrible things.
It's just insane that we know where it is.
Well, we know that I believe Ethiopia has a very strong claim to it, but that's all I can say because I've not seen it myself. I've been right outside the door of that sanctuary chapel several times. But
did you bring a Geiger counter?
No. That would be a good thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine it was going nuts as you got close.
That would be a good thought.
I mean, it's not like it's going to be, if it's radioactive, it's not like it's going to be contained just this one small area. You're going to have traces of it that leak out.
That's true. It would be a good way
especially if people are getting cataracts from being in the room with it.
Yeah.
And so 3 different people you talked to have cataracts from that.
Yeah. And they all blame the Ark. And one of them, it's a resonant phrase, which sticks in my memory. I asked him why, and he said the Ark is a thing of fire. Just that.
Did he describe it to you?
He did describe it as a box, rather like the biblical description, unsurprisingly. But
did he describe what it looked like the outside of it?
Gold.
Gold.
Mm-hmm. Gold.
Wow.
And of course, gold is a very good insulator against radiation. I don't want to go too far down this track. To me, the fascinating thing is that Ethiopia is the only country in the world that actually claims to have the Ark of the Covenant. That it's central to religion and culture in Ethiopia today. That there's much to support that argument, particularly in the form of the Falashas, the Ethiopian Jews, and their very ancient traditions about how they got to Ethiopia in the first place. In context of all of that, I think Ethiopia has a very good claim, very interesting claim, and that's why I wrote a book about it.
Very, very interesting stuff. Now let's jump over to the next clip. Guys, this is a serious message. As you can see, I'm not even in uniform. I'm not wearing the signature hat. So very serious message. 59% of you are not subscribed. Please, guys, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 500,000 subscribers. The road is long, but I know that we can do it. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the notifications. Please hit the like. If you want to keep seeing this content, if you want to help me move from being the Joe Rogan clip guy onto better, greener pastures, you got to hit the like. You got to hit the subscribe. It helps me tremendously. That is all I ask. Let's get back to the episode. Okay, now we're getting into the next clip. Now, this is with the band. Did I say it correctly? The Red Clay Stray. Now, they talk a little bit about this, and this is what triggered me going into this rabbit hole altogether. But remember what this guy right here who's on the screen, remember what he says as we go through this episode. Because as I make the connections here, it's what he's saying. It's just listen.
Jerusalem. So
yeah,
it's like I say, they've been debunking it and saying it's authentic and debunking it. It seems like for the last 5 or 10 years now.
Oh, it's very weird stuff.
It's just where are we at right now with it?
That one church in Ethiopia that's supposed to have the Ark of the Covenant there.
Yeah.
And all the people that guard it, they all get cataracts and they wind up dying of radiation.
I haven't heard that
See,
one.
You ever heard of that?
I don't know about that because the Ark of the Covenant was when God the Father's presence was here on earth, not through Jesus. Old Testament, the I Am was down here, and that's what he resided in. And you had to do all these things to be in his presence, or you would literally just die because, he's holy. And to me, it's like lightness and dark cannot exist in the same place. So whatever. But God the Father's presence isn't there anymore, so I don't understand why it would still be messing people up.
Well, we don't know what they were writing down, right?
Yeah.
The problem with...
It's very interesting Joe always says that, right? We don't know what they were writing down. We don't know what they were writing down. Kind of do. kind of do. There's a lot of people, like, for him to be like, we don't really know what they were saying, and there's all these people who are like learning ancient Hebrew and learning all these different language and deciphering what this said, to be like, we don't know what they were saying. It's like, you kind of do. If you read the Bible back to front, you'll kind of have an understanding. And then all of a sudden go to the scholars who are translating and doing all this stuff. You can know what they're saying. But that's not what to focus on. What he said, why would, I don't know that gentleman's name. I feel like he's the lead singer in that band. Really cool guy throughout that whole interview. Into some really interesting stuff. He takes the conversation in some great places. But when he talks about God the Father, he's like, God the Father was there, and that's why this thing was, we'll just say radioactive, right? Because that's where I'm going with this as I go on through the episode. He goes, so now that God's presence isn't there, why would it still have this power? And that's what made me start to think. I'm like, what is this thing? This Ark of the Covenant. What is this thing? It's shooting fire. It's a thing of fire. It's giving people cataracts. I'm going to get into a little bit more. I'm going to get into the similar things that have happened throughout time that kind of line up with what the Ark of the Covenant is said to do. But we're going to jump into Jesse Michaels real quick. He was sitting down with Graham Hancock. They had a great conversation. There'll be a little bit of overlap with what Graham said before, but I still want to play it because can't get enough of Graham Hancock, especially in this subject.
Since then, as far as piecing together all these similarities across, disparate sites all over the world.
Yes, yeah.
It's very interesting.
Initially, it was just an intriguing story, and it wasn't my main focus in the 1980s, but it was something I gradually built up information on till I got to a point where I knew I had a book to
What's
write.
the town that the Ark of the Covenant is? Axum.
AXUM, and it's in the province of Tigray, in northern Ethiopia. And there's we need not go into it in detail, but there's a whole long tradition in Ethiopia. Actually, Ethiopia is the only country in the world that claims to have the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes.
There are lots of rumors, traditions, suggestions that it might be in Jordan, that it might be hidden beneath the Temple Mount, in Jerusalem, in all kinds of places. But there's one country in the world where it's a living tradition and where it's central, oddly, to Christianity in Ethiopia, because it's a pre-Christian relic, but it's central to Ethiopian Christianity. And they have their own story about how the Ark of the Covenant got there. But actually it was, as I began to research this subject and encountered the very interesting community of indigenous Ethiopian Jews who are known as the Falashas. They call themselves the Beta Israel, the House of Israel.
Lost tribe.
They have a very ancient presence in Ethiopia, and they have their own story about how the Ark of the Covenant got to Ethiopia. And it's quite different from the Ethiopian national epic, which is called the Kebra Nagast, the Glory of Kings. Their story is much, much more interesting and is clearly factually based for all kinds of reasons, like how their ancestors had fled from Israel carrying the Ark, like how they brought it to an island in the Nile River and kept it there for several hundred years, like how they were forced out and fled south following the Blue Nile to its source in Lake Tana, which is where the Falasha communities still live today. Now, actually, when I say still live today, during the chaos of the overthrow of the Mengistu regime in Ethiopia in 1991, Israel flew in many, many large cargo planes and actually airlifted out of Ethiopia the majority of the Ethiopian Jews and resettled them in Israel. Quite a number have returned, but there's still a large Ethiopian Jewish community in Israel itself now. And they just have fascinating stories about this, and stories that make sense, and stories that I was able to tie up with historical evidence. So I gradually began to feel that this claim that Ethiopia makes may have a real basis to it. And obviously that involved me figuring out what this thing is. It's the first time that I began to get a sense of something missing in the human story, because the Ark of the Covenant does sound, there's a very detailed description of it in the Bible, in the book of Exodus, in the Old Testament, and that description is like a blueprint for
2 cubits and 2 cubits and a half shall be the length,
device,
and a cubit and a half the height,
which supposedly God gives to,
and a cubit and a half in the breadth.
Moses on Mount Sinai.
And it directs the Israelites where to go when they're in the desert?
Yes, as they carry it through the desert, it's carried in procession before them. It becomes central to the way. And of course, it contains the tablets of the Ten Commandments, according to the book of Exodus. But also it strikes people dead with bolts of fire that come out of it. It can cause whole populations to suffer from cancerous tumors, as it did when the Philistines, as they're called in the Bible, briefly captured it. They all died. So bad that they had to return it to the Israelites.
Which is fascinating, because you say that the guards that are guarding it in Axum currently seem to have radiation damage in certain cases. They have cataracts.
They all have cataracts over their eyes. And by and large, once they are appointed guardian of the Ark, they have a lifespan of about 3 years.
3 years. 3 years. That's wild. And apparently, I think Graham might say this. We'll see in a second. But apparently one of them actually ran away. They didn't want to take the responsibility, and they didn't want to pass away, so they ran off.
And they all say, because I've interviewed a number of them in succession, when the previous one has died, I've gone back, found a new guy there. And he said, yeah, my predecessor died, and the Ark did it. And he shows me the cataracts over his eyes, and he says the Ark is doing this to me. And I said, why? And I will remember this phrase forever. He said, because it is a thing of fire.
Oh, and you said you almost went in there, but you were very afraid.
Well, no, I was not allowed to go.
You weren't allowed to
I was allowed through the gates in front of the sanctuary chapel in which the Ethiopians claim it's kept, but I wasn't allowed into the
I think I asked you, why didn't you sneak in, Graham? And you said,
yeah.
You said something very interesting to me, though. You said something inside of me said I wasn't ready and it would be dangerous.
I felt it would be obnoxious to try and sneak in. It would be wrong. You know, I have to respect the sanctity of this place. And besides, the people of Axum are well prepared to defend it. Were anybody to try to break into that chapel, they would be shot.
Did you know, if it's just been an Axum all along, you had, you know, Heinrich Himmler under Hitler looking for these, you know, the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant. Did he ever try to go to Axum and take it from them?
During the Italian occupation of Ethiopia, which was roughly 1935 to 1941, the Ethiopians say that they took the Ark out of Axum and they took it to another place of safekeeping. That's their story. They took it to an island on Lake Zwei, which is south of Addis Ababa. I wouldn't be surprised if there were efforts to find it, but the Ethiopians have been very competent at frustrating those efforts for a very long time.
Weird stuff. Let Graham finish here.
Anyway, it's a fascinating story, and it led me down a track that I hadn't expected to find myself going down. And it led me down that track of what else is missing in our past, and why are archaeologists so arrogant? Because they arrogantly and sneeringly dismissed the Ethiopian tradition. Whereas at a heart level, when I encountered Ethiopians who were connected to this story, I found people with a deep commitment and faith to it, and solid reasoning why it should be there.
Wow. I had no idea that this is what got Graham started in everything that he is today. It's just kind of a testament that you got to just kind of let God pull you sometimes. Let him pull you where you got to go. And it's gonna turn into something that you couldn't possibly fathom. You just couldn't possibly fathom. And look at him now. Imagine he just stayed as a current events guy, or what? Just like writing articles. That would be Graham Hancock. Nothing more. That'd be terrible, man. It's just very weird. You know, one impromptu. I'm gonna move on to the next clip. Just to Jesse Michaels. I'm gonna show you that clip of the actual place, but I would love to know Ethiopian story of the Ark of the Covenant. I'd love to know what their story is. What is their story? Yeah. Because I would love to hear what they say. Let's try and play this. Let's see what this says.
After thousands of years, this object disappeared from the Bible around about 650 years before Christ. It's not mentioned again in the Bible after that. It vanishes. And yet here is its worship in 20th century Ethiopia today. How do we explain this? And it was...
Okay, so this is just Graham Hancock again. I mean, not, love to hear Graham talk, but I was trying to find, I would love to hear what their story is, their whole story of how it actually came to be there. Graham touched on it a little bit. They carried it through certain places, they brought it, but yeah, I've just never heard that full story. But listen to this or watch this.
Right there is the church that claims to hold the original Ark of the Covenant. This is the building where the Ethiopian Ark of the Covenant is kept. We wanted to enter the complex, but we were told that no one gets to go beyond the blue gates. However, we were friendly, and then they allowed us to go in.
Went ahead and got radiation poisoning. That's why they don't let anybody in. They're like, hey, usually a guy's in there for like 3 years and then he passes away, so you shouldn't go in there. And they're like, we'd like to go in now. And they're like, all right. Take 4 years off your life, no problem.
We found evidence here that these churches were built on an ancient site, for the relics of the Ascumite Empire were buried everywhere. Then we saw the church where the Ark is located. Just behind these gates, the Ethiopian Ark of the Covenant is stored. Just behind me is the church where they say the Ark of the Covenant is kept, just there. But no one is allowed in, and the priest protecting the Ark is forbidden to leave. His destiny is to die behind these gates. He is both the guardian of the Ark and its prisoner. Is this the last resting place, the Ark of the Covenant? Well, for the people who have been here for so long, for the Orthodox Christians, they truly believe the original Ark of the Covenant is there. Once again, we had come close to the Ark, but not close enough. But then we heard of another church where perhaps we would be allowed to see it.
So that's By Faith Media that did that little clip there. Very interesting stuff. Just to see what the place actually looks like is pretty wild. To see that this is where people go. This is where it is. This is where these guys go behind these blue gates and pass away three years later. And they say that the Ark is what's doing it to them. Here's the thing. I think it's so noble to be so deep in your faith, right? I've recently deepened my faith even more. I think it's so noble. But what they're doing, okay, is kind of setting things back. Because if we could see what it was, setting things back in two different ways. If we could see what it was, if it is a radioactive reactor of sorts, then that would unlock so many things in the world. With religion, with UFOs, with it would just unlock everything. Did people make this? Like, what is this? Right? There would be that whole thing. What is this? What technology is this? It's still powered. It's been around for thousands of years. It's still emitting power. So would this be the free energy that Nikola Tesla was like aspiring to for the longest time? Is this some kind of reactor and it's been just going on for on and on? And if so, it's like that could change humanity, right? Or it is actually just the Ark of the Covenant. It had God's presence within it, and that is why it is still radiating power, because God was actually in this thing. Then that also helps so many people with religion. It helps people like myself who already have faith. Like, we don't need much help, but it would be great to see. It would help a lot of people who are non-believers. It would take the Bible. There's so many people still talk about the Bible being mythology and not real and this and that. It would give some real historical power to it. Although there is a bunch of historical things in the Bible that, people are people have linked. Like my buddy the other day, he was telling me about how there is a story in the Torah, because he studies the Torah, and he was talking about how there was a battle, and in this battle, it was where the Dead Sea is, and now the Dead Sea is filled with salt, and they can't explain why it's filled with salt. They can't explain why people float in the Dead Sea. Like, they have no explanation. But in the Torah, there's actually an explanation as to why that happens. And then you see it in actual life. Still to this day, it's a real thing, right? So there's a lot. But getting off the point, they're kind of setting things back. If they could let us see what it is, it could help. It could help a lot. It could help humanity in different ways, possibly. I'm just saying. Now, the thing about it is, before I play this statement from the agency and what they have to say, what they declassified. Now, think about what you've heard about the Ark, right? This guy in Joe Rogan's clip, he was talking about the presence of God the Father not being there anymore. So why would it hold such power? Well, it could be because it's actually radiation. I've already touched on that as I was talking just now. Now, if you think back, if you're a watcher of the show, I covered a situation with someone named Francis ICIC. You have told me in the comments that's how you pronounce this. I'll go with you on that. But he's from the 12th century monk, Christian monk. And he has an encounter with an angel, the same type of angel that's actually depicted to be on the Ark of the Covenant, oddly enough, because I think the president actually has a replica. Of I think it was in the White House. White House. So I think it was in the White House. And what it shows is these angels. There it is. Laura Loomer in all his glory. So check it out. Oh, this is at Mar-a-Lago. Sorry, it was not at the White House. My bad. So these are birds, right? But this is also how the I want to say the seraphim, I believe it is. It's a type of angel. This is actually how they're depicted. They cover themselves. It's the angel that, if you heard about biblically accurate angels, it's the one that has these two crazy wings, but also has wings covering it. It has 6 wings that cover it, and then wings that are extended. So it's actually a depiction of this. Now, when I talk about this Christian monk, he saw those same type of angels, and that angel hit him with a beam, very much like people say the Ark of the Covenant is hitting people with fire and beams. He got hit with these beams, these fiery bolts came at him, and they hit him in his hands, in his feet, in his body. And when the other monks saw him, they hid him from the people because they didn't want people to see the injuries that he had sustained. I'm getting all over the place. The injuries he sustained. Now, he ended up succumbing to those injuries. What these injuries were very much like radiation burns. He was burnt in a terrible way all over his body from this angel that he interacted with, okay? Did the same thing as the Ark. Now, there's another place. Let me just jump over here real quick. There's another place, and it's called Colores Island. I believe it's an island. It's in Brazil, town in Brazil. So what happens in this place is that there is a big shining light, that a craft of sorts that keeps coming to this island, and it's just out into the ocean. It's at the ocean, which is also odd because they say a lot of things come out of the ocean. And then it starts moving into town. After like a week of just appearing, it moves into town and it starts hitting all the residents with lasers. The same type of fiery beams that in the 12th century, this Christian monk got hit with. The same type of fiery beams that they're saying were coming from the Ark of the Covenant were also coming from whatever this was into these townspeople. And this is documented. This is a real thing. People were really injured.
But before my mom arrived, a strong red light surrounded me and left me paralyzed. At the same time, I felt very fine punctures in my breast. Then I fell to the ground and passed out. Her mother reported seeing a colorless liquid that smelled like ether oozing from her puncture wounds. The city of Colares had only one physician, Dr. Valelde Cecim Carvalho. She initially thought that the town was experiencing a mass hysteria when her office began to be overrun with people claiming injuries from UFOs. She was perplexed at the real injuries she would observe in the patients coming in. She took blood samples and concluded that the victims suffered from generalized hypothermia, chronic headaches, burnings, intense heat, nausea, tremors in the body, giddiness, and often presented small orifices in the skin.
See what I mean? This is what was happening in this town. And it wasn't one or two people. It wasn't 6 people. It was dozens and dozens and dozens of people that were getting hit with this thing of fire, like Graham Hancock called it. Same type of thing was happening to them. So it just makes you think, man, is the Ark of the Covenant, what is it, right? Is it what Francis ICIC encountered? Is it what these people in Brazil encountered? Is it the same thing? And if it is, then is this thing technology? Was the angel that the monk encountered technology? Was what the people in Brazil encountered technology? Or were what they encountered and what they're protecting right now in Ethiopia? Or is it actually holy? Is it actually really, really holy? I don't know. It's very hard to know. But listen to this. This is what the agency has to say about this whole thing. Oh, did I miss it? Here, let me go back a little bit. I actually have this timestamp perfect at 3 minutes. Perfect. Let's go. Let's listen to this.
They used over 30 people in this experiment.
Of course, I'm listening to it at double speed, guys. You know me. You know me, guys.
1988, and I want to read something real quick from their actual declassified documents from December 5th, 1988. It was a session by, they don't give us the name, but it's called Remote Viewer Number 32, which means they used over 30 people in this experiment to do it. This specific session lasted 90 minutes from 9:15 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. on December 5th, 1988, and it says the following. Target is a container. The target is what they're looking for on the longitude and latitude lines. This container has another container inside of it. The target is fashioned of wood, gold, and silver. The target is similar in shape to a coffin and is decorated with seraphim, which are like these gold-looking statues. This target is located somewhere in the Middle East as the
gold statues. He doesn't actually know. The seraphim, those are angels. So what this remote viewer is seeing is the Ark of the Covenant. So they're describing it as having seraphim, the same type of seraphim that attacked that monk in the 12th century.
The language spoken by individuals present seemed to be Arabic. Visuals of surrounding buildings indicated the presence of mosque domes. And I'm going to tell you right now that I know people are talking about, is it in Ethiopia because there's a lot of, Arabic speaking people over there? No, it's under the Dome of the Rock. And I'll tell you how we know that in a second. But it continues on by saying the target is hidden, underground, dark and wet were all aspects of the location of the target. The purpose of the target is to bring a people together, meaning a religious object. It has something to do with ceremony, memory, homage, the resurrection. There is an aspect of spirituality, information, lessons, and historical knowledge far beyond what we know. And then it goes on by explaining something which I can elaborate on further of what this means. The target is protected by entities and energies. Yeah. And can only be opened by those who are authorized to do so. This container will not/cannot be opened until the time is deemed correct. Once it is time to open the container, the mechanics of the lock system will be found to be fairly simple. Individuals opening the container by prying or striking are destroyed, meaning they die, by the container's protectors, meaning its energies, through the use of a power unknown to us. Now, it sounds weird, but that's coming from the CIA. Let's not forget that.
Yeah,
right.
This is like the sword and the stone.
Someone in the chat
Only
says,
the right people can pull it out and the wrong people will be punished. And again, I get the vision of Atreyu going through those, remember? Never ending
Sphinxes. Never ending story.
Yes,
yeah.
When he goes through the Sphinx, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's like only those authorized. This is amazing. Sorry, I got excited.
So, it's okay. Indiana Jones in real life. That's what's going on here.
I know someone in the chat said, man, Redacted, you guys became the woke History Channel. I don't know about that, but I'll take the History Channel piece of it. I'm thrilled about that. I mean, again, these are CIA documents, right? And so using these remote viewers and the documents before this, I mean, this has been around for a long, long time for people laying claim to what actually this ark means and does and holds. But I'm curious about these beings that are sort of guarding this thing. Do we have any more information about what these beings might be that are guarding this thing? What kind of energies?
Yeah, so I think that word is not the proper word to use. You're talking about something that is a very highly spiritual object and artifact. I call it a form of technology. And when you deal in that world, think about it scientifically as frequencies. There are certain frequencies that some people can touch and some people cannot, because if you don't have the proper vehicle to do it, it will literally electrocute you and kill you. For example,
now, I think this guy's completely wrong. I think the fact that he didn't know the word seraphim. Now, I'm not just saying like, oh, you didn't know that word. Like, I'm not just saying it like that. But, and obviously he doesn't know about this stuff. But the seraphim is what did the exact, again, I know I'm saying it again, but the seraphim is what's protecting the ark from the sound of it. So when it says entities, beings are protecting the ark. And when people try to strike it or pry it open, what ends up happening to them is they get hit with fire that just ends their life. This is exactly what happened to Francis. Now, why that happened to Francis in the 12th century, I don't know. I don't know if it was a blessing. I don't know if he was maybe doing something out of pocket, but the story is he was just walking and he just encountered this seraphim and it hit him with these beams and he passed away from the injuries. Now, was it blessing him? Was it trying to bring him to God, or was it something else? Or did he have something terrible that he was doing? I don't know. I really don't know. But it seems like the seraphim are what's protecting the ark. That I did not plan on telling you. That wasn't even in my mind whatsoever. Yeah. Wild little rabbit hole we ventured down. So the Ark of the Covenant, we don't know if this thing is technology or if it's holy, but now I'm on the holy part of it, because now you're telling me that there's seraphim on it and there's these entities guarding it. So obviously they're showing you the representation of what's guarding it on the thing, because if you know about these angels, if you know what Monk Francis knew in the 12th century, he'd look at it and go, oh no, I know what those things are. We got to go. We're not going to pry this thing open. But if you don't know what the seraphim are and you just approach it with no reverence, then you end up being fried. You end up in the air fryer, the ark of the air fryer, Anyways, guys, I just wanted to bring that to you. I'm out of here.